Jessica Doss, and I'm a dietitian from Milwaukee Public Schools Department of Nutrition Services, and I'm here today to cook with you. We received a grant from USDA called the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, and with grant funds, we bought produce bags for families in Milwaukee. If you'd like to participate in this program or our meal programs, we're open on school days from 11 to 1:30, and we have 50 locations throughout the city. We also have extended hour sites, Obama, North Division, and South Division, that are open from 3 to 5 p.m. The Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program in particular, though, is distributed on Thursdays, where you get a nice produce bundle. So let's get started with this week's produce bag. During the month of March, we've been talking about personalizing your plate. And this week, we're personalizing our plate for Wisconsin traditions and talking about the Wisconsin fish fry. So let's get started and see what's in your bag. We have apples, carrots, green cabbage, zucchini, Yukon Gold potato, yellow onion, lemon, and a garlic. What are we making? Well, we're making all the side dishes that go with the fish fry. Best ever applesauce, potato zucchini pancakes, and coleslaw. So I can't wait for you to dig into these recipes with me as we learn together. So let's get started with the first recipe, our applesauce. I'm going to take an apple and I'm going to peel it and then chop. So apples, super healthy, great source of fiber. And if you've never made homemade applesauce before, you're really missing out. The first time I made it was in Foods Lab in college, and honestly, there's never been going back to store-bought again. It's so flavorful compared to what you can buy in a jar. You wouldn't believe it. And what's nice is it lasts about 5 days in the refrigerator after you make it, so you don't have to eat it all right away. You can also make bigger, small batches, and you don't have to can it, because in the refrigerator, it will store for about that week time frame. But there are canning directions you can use online too if you love the recipe so much you want to make more. So the amount of apples that you're getting this week is 2 pounds, and we are going to give you Golden Delicious. These are a different variety of apple, but nutrition facts are about the same. And you want an apple that's sweet or tangy or whatever your preference may be for your sauce. So I'm going to add this to my pre-cut apples that I have started over here. And here's my 2 pounds. And what we're going to do next is we're going to go and take them over to the stovetop. We're going to dump them into our pan. And then we will add our ingredients. 2 tablespoons sugar. You can make it unsweetened, not add any, or adjust to taste. Next, I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then the recipe calls for a 1/2 cup of water. I know my stove here is really hot, so I'm going to add just a little bit extra to be on the safe side. And then let's turn on our flame. And I'm going to move this to my back burner because we're going to be doing more cooking on our stove today. And this is going to cook covered for about 18 to 20 minutes. And we just want those apples nice and soft. There we go, and we'll kind of stir it occasionally as we go. So the next recipe we're going to get started today is our potato zucchini pancakes. And I love these, especially with a side of applesauce or maple syrup or ketchup. So we are going to be using a food processor today. You do not have to own one of these at home for these recipes. A cheese grater works just fine. So for our potato zucchini pancakes, I have 1 Yukon Gold potato already peeled. And when you use the food processor, you have to make sure everything fits through the chute. And I'm using a medium grate. So I'm just going to plop those in and grate away. Okay. And our potatoes are high in resistant starches, which is great for blood sugar control. It is also really good for those friendly bacteria in your intestine. Okay, next we're going to be doing our zucchinis and prepping them. So wash your fruits and vegetables first, but this recipe does call for 3 cups. And based on the size of this zucchini, I'm going to use about 1.5 because this is a little bit larger. Just take the ends off and either grate it down with your cheese grater or process it using your food processor. Okay, and I just want everything to fit nicely in my chute. Now zucchinis have lots of nutrients that are good for your eyes. And let's put this in and get going. So fast. That's it. So what we will be doing next is we're going to take the liquid out. We don't want our pancake to be too soupy. So I have my mixing bowl right here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a cheesecloth. And if you don't have cheesecloth at home, that's perfectly fine. You can just use like a cotton napkin or a clean piece of material to squeeze, or a strainer and just push down on it to get that liquid out. I'm gonna take a little bit at a time and just squeeze it into a separate bowl. And there is a lot of water that comes out that I want to show you. So let's get this stuff out of the way. Okay, so there we go. That is nutrients we're putting to the side, but that's okay. It's worth it for this recipe. Now, one of the traditions I do with my family is we used to go to German Fest, and the potato pancakes there were always a hit. I do like the zucchini added to them though, because it's just that extra nutrition that we need. And anywhere we can get in extra fruits and vegetables, the better. I also love fish fries because it comes down to a family tradition for us. We had family up north, and my uncle owned a restaurant for many years. And on Fridays, he served a fish fry, and the line was always down the street. We also would go up to my grandma's, who lived on the lake, and our goal when we visited her for a week a year would be to catch as many fish as possible and have our own fish fry that Friday. So we'd fish the entire week together, have some good family time, and we'd cook it outside in a big frying pan and have a bonfire. So that was always my highlight of the summer. And seeing who can catch the biggest fish is really fun. But in Wisconsin, the fish fry, it started quite a while back, and having close proximity to the lake has a lot to do with it. Lake Michigan is just abundant in fish, but also our cultural heritage is where our roots came from in this tradition. So in the 18th century, many Roman Catholics fled here from Europe to immigrate. And when they came with their Catholic traditions, which was to not eat meat on Fridays. So fish became a good choice with the proximity of Lake Michigan, and it was very cost effective. But the fish fry really didn't start till the 20th century. And in the 20th century, perch was abundant and inexpensive, so it became a thing. And when it became a thing in the 1920s and 30s, when the Prohibition era was going on, taverns actually stayed afloat because of their sales with the Friday fish fry. Later on, in about 1960, the Pope reduced year-round Friday fasting to the fasting during Lent only. But nonetheless, the Friday fish fry remained steadfast in Wisconsin. So that's a little bit of history for you on where this all began. And I'm wondering if your family has traditions too. So I'm just gonna clean this out because we're gonna be using it again. And then we will be mixing our ingredients together for our pancake. Now, I wanna check my applesauce, make sure things are cooking nicely as well. It's starting to smell good and sweet. It's bubbling nicely, and as expected, my stove is cooking hot. So that's looking good and needs to keep going and cooking down so it's nice and soft. All right, we are ready for our next step. We're gonna be mixing our dry ingredients together real quick. We have 3 tablespoons of flour. We have 1 teaspoon of baking soda. We have 1 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Just gonna whisk this with the fork. And then we have 3 eggs that I've already cracked in this bowl. And I'm gonna scramble them slightly. This is a nice little source of protein, so it's perfect for your meal. And honestly, sometimes I can just eat these pancakes by themselves with nothing else on the side because they're so good. So then in my bowl with my vegetables, I have 1 medium yellow onion already diced. And I have 2 cloves of garlic, which is great for anti-cancer and anti-inflammatory responses. So I'm gonna give my veggies 1 little stir, And then I am going to add my dry ingredients in with my eggs. Lastly, I have half a cup of breadcrumb. And this is a seasoned Italian variety of breadcrumb. Dump that in and also give it one little stir. And then we're going to incorporate everything together and our batter is done. Okay, so let's stir this all together now. Use the right size mixing spoon. And this is a great way to get extra vegetables in. And you just want to incorporate everything really well so it's a nice consistent batter. And really with this recipe you could use any variety of potato you have at home would be just fine. I just have a special love for Yukon Golds, which is why you're getting them this week. I think they're a little bit sweeter. Okay, while we finish mixing, I'm going to start heating up 2 tablespoons of oil on the stovetop. Okay. And you're going to have to add a little bit of oil between batches on this. So let's get this nice and hot. I want to hear a little bit of sizzling and popping. And give my batter one more stir. So you can see how everything is coated now with the breadcrumb and egg. Okay, so we're going to give that one more minute to heat up and we're going to start prepping for our next recipe, the coleslaw. So with the coleslaw, I like color. We're using the green cabbage, putting a little bit of carrot in there, and sometimes you can see a little purple in there as well, depending on where you go out and what restaurant. So you're going to be getting a whole head, but we only need about 1 pound, which is going to be about half. And just cut that down the middle. And then we want to take the core out. And that's this thick part right here. So that does not grate well and it's a little tough to taste. And then I'm going to slice it to make sure it is nice to fit down my chute. And lastly, I'm going to switch my blade around so it is on a slicing mode. Here we go. And lock that in. All right, I think my oil is hot now, so let's put our batter in about 1/4 cup at a time, and we're going to flatten it. Perfect. I hear sizzling already. Okay, so we'll just let those go while we make our coleslaw now. So let's shred our ingredients and get this started. Okay, got that. Take that out and we're gonna put our cabbage in. Okay, and if you don't have a food processor at home for this, no worries. Just thinly slice it with a knife. All right, so we're gonna add our carrot to this mixture. And I'm gonna switch that around so it's grating now and put my top back on. Carrots, beta carotene, great for eyes. And let's check my stovetop over here. Everything's browning nicely. And peek at the bottom. Whenever my oil sizzles a little too much, I know it may be a little hot. So parents, if you're doing this with your kids, just kind of keep an eye on the stove so they don't get hurt with the oil. And if it's a little soft, you may want to keep it cooking for another couple minutes on each side. There we go. And these really don't take long at all to cook down. Okay, just about another minute on that. Now let's shred our carrots. I just need to remove the top and the bottom to clean it up. These have already been peeled though. And put them down that chute. All right. So our base is done for our coleslaw now. I'm gonna take off our top. And our little tidbits that were on the side. Looks really colorful, the green and the orange. And I'm gonna dump it into my mixing bowl. Looks good. right, let's check our potato pancake now. Just want to make sure they're nice and golden brown. And these just need a few more moments to finish cooking, so we're almost there. And while we do that, let's always clean up our workstation, mise en place, French term, everything in place. Get that to the side. And we're gonna start our dressing. So for our dressing for the coleslaw, we have half a cup of mayonnaise. And we have 1/3 a cup of sugar. So it's a little sweet. Feel free to cut back if you choose for starters and adjust to taste. And then we have 2 tablespoons of onion. I'm gonna add into the vegetable bowl. All right, our pancakes should be done. Let's take them off the fire. And when you're frying things, always put a paper towel on a plate so it can drain the excess grease. I see nice golden brown. They're perfect. So we're gonna flip them so you can see the side. And let's let that drain for just a moment until we're ready for our meal. Okay, turn that front burner off and check our apples while we're over here. So they are starting to get soft, but they do need extra time to cook. But they're smelling nice. Okay, our coleslaw. We have our mayo and our sugar. Now we have a tablespoon and a half of squeezed lemon that you're getting this week, and we're gonna dump that in. Next, we have half a teaspoon of salt, and we have a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and milk. So the recipe calls for a 1/4 cup of milk and a 1/4 cup of buttermilk, but I often don't buy buttermilk at home, and sometimes it's hard to find in stores in Milwaukee, so you can make a substitute. It's pretty easy. If you don't have buttermilk at home, just do a half a cup of milk, and I want you to do 1 teaspoon of vinegar in there or a teaspoon of lemon. And then you put it to the side for 5 minutes, and it kind of curdles and sours it a little bit to give that buttermilk taste. So that's what I've done already. I've had my buttermilk substitute, and we're gonna mix that in the bowl. This is a really handy tip for baking too, because a lot of muffins call for buttermilk, and I just never seem to have it around. So for our dressing, I want to whisk it a little bit now. Get those lumps out. And whisking and these cool salads are great for younger kids to help with in the kitchen. Okay, nice and creamy. Now let's dump it in and stir. All right, stir it on up. Looks pretty and healthy. Lots of vegetables in this traditional meal. And this is done. So let me put it in the serving bowl. And then we are gonna plate up our meal for today. Now you're getting a bonus recipe this week for a cornmeal fish. Very good. I've always had cornmeal fish fries as a kid growing up, so I wanted to share that with you. Very, very simple recipe and extremely tasty for an occasional Friday treat. All right, let's get a plate. And we happen to have the cornmeal fish right here. And we're gonna take a piece or two with our clean hands for our serving plate. There we go. And then I'm gonna put a little coleslaw on the side. And then we'll grab some potato pancake. We have lots of dishes today, but it's worth it, trust me. These are drained nicely now. All right. And then let's check on our applesauce and see how that's doing. I'm looking for something that can be mushed with a spoon. That's how I know it's done. And we are there. Good timing. So let me take my oil out of the way. I want to move this to the front, turn off my back flame, and start mushing away. Now the recipe calls for some lemon juice, and lemon juice is a natural preservative. And we have a little bit I want to dump in, and a little shake of cinnamon for some extra flavor. All right, about 1/8 teaspoon on that. And I am going to spoon a little bit to the side of our pancakes now. Feel free to use a blender if you want a perfectly smooth applesauce. That's always an option if you don't like the chunkier variety. And I like a little garnish on top of this too. Okay, looks good. Little tartar sauce, a little slice of lemon. Let's cut that up together. I can't have my fish without lemon. It's just not right. And I like to just squeeze a little bit, and we'll just put that right in the middle. So here's our Friday traditional meal. I hope you enjoy it. Now in addition, I'm sure you may have a glass of Wisconsin milk in the side. So our milk is Wisconsin's America's Dairyland, and America's Dairyland was our title for so long because we are one of the biggest dairy producers in the nation. California has now topped us, but we still hold that nickname. It's no wonder we have traditional foods like cream puff, frozen custard, and cheese curd, especially here in Milwaukee area. So these are fun. Traditions give us stability and something to hold on to, which is so important, especially during this last year, during the COVID-19 pandemic, where you've really learned life is unpredictable and ever-changing. So talk about your traditions this week. What foods do you have around the holidays, birthdays? Do you have a Friday night pizza night? Where do you get it from? This is a great conversation for your kids. And I hope you enjoy this, and I can't wait to see you again next week when we talk about personalizing our plate for picky eaters. See you soon and take care.